is Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, which was actually my introduction to epic fantasy. And that's actually how I discovered Brandon Sanderson, was because I read Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I loved it so much, and I was like, I need more now.
Welcome to More Magic, a fantasy book podcast. I'm your host, Demi Utley.
And I'm your co-host, Marianne, Boules.
We have our tea, our cozy blankets, and a lot of books to discuss. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the More Magic Book Club podcast. Today is one of our theme episodes, and we are talking about fantasy books for adults. If you listened, I think it was in December, it was a few episodes ago, we shared some of the books that we loved growing up, and we wanted to offer some books for adults in case you are not, 15 or in junior high listening to this and you want to, just have a few more options. So that's what we're talking about. Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm super excited. This is great also for if you are someone, for me and Demi, I think we have a long history of reading fantasy. We've done it since we were little babes with, Aragon and the Chronicles of Narnia. But if you're new to fantasy and you just discovered the joys of fantasy, this is a good episode to see where you could start dipping your feet.
Yeah, and I think this is also great because I know the past 5 years or so, romantasy has become a genre and become a really, big deal, and that a lot of people are reading that. So I've had some friends who got back into reading because they started reading like the Sarah J. Maas books or Fourth Wing or something like that. And then I've gotten questions like, okay, well, I like fantasy, but I don't know where to go beyond the romantasy. Like, where do I start? So this is also some suggestions for books of like, okay, well, you've dipped your toes and you want to move into like straight fantasy, like more like, I guess, strict fantasy. I don't even know how I would say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, need some recommendations. So
in that case, maybe we should start with complex themes, fantasy books of complex themes, because I would say that there's a good off-ramp in this category of romantasy to a fantasy that is highly romantic. So it's like a good way, like a good gateway drug from romantasy into regular fantasy or traditional fantasy. And that is Demi.
Yeah. So are you talking about the Everlasting?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So okay, let's talk about our favorite books with complex themes, because this is part of why I love fantasy, because it allows you to kind of dive into these things that are really complicated. And if it was just straight, especially nonfiction, it's so heavy to read. But then if it's just, more classic like historical fiction or just contemporary fiction, it feels a little too close to home. So I think that's where, I just love like fantasy that deals with those complex themes. And so the Everlasting, we have a whole episode on the Everlasting as well, which is a book by Alex Harrow that came out in October 2025, I believe. It's a good book if you, like Marianne just said, if you want something that I'd say it has a lot of heart and it's dealing with these really complex topics of what is power, what's imperialism, what does it mean to be a parent, and also thinking about your legacy and who you are in the world. I love that book. Yeah, what would you say for anyone who's considering it?
Oh my gosh, this book is on a whole other level. Like, it's on a whole other echelon of themes. I still think about this book and its themes, and it's been months. But it also has that romance piece. Like, the center of the book is a romance between two people from two different time periods. And so it's extremely romantic. Like, it is romance on a whole level of depth. If you listen to me actually talk about this book, you'll hear my whole tirade about how I'm not typically into romance. But I really loved their romance a lot. So I'm obviously maybe a bit biased, but I really love their romance. It's just so beautiful and deep because it's familial romance. It's the kind of romance that turns into a family that isn't just a family, but extends outwards. It starts to grab other people who've been outsiders into their family. So it's just a great book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know Alex Harrow, the author, she's read a lot of romance, like an obscure romance. So I think this book was pulling a lot of those references. Because I listened to a few interviews where she was talking about how she wanted to write a romance, but also to have this like, larger complexity that this one does. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's just so good. There's also dragons.
Yes.
And
time travel.
Book.
Yes.
Yeah. It has like all
tree.
of the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read this book. It's a good book.
Yeah. Even if you don't like romance, because I mean, it's good if you like romance. It's like a good like stepping stone. Like if you don't like romance, you can read it and it reads like
epic.
A love plot or something. Yeah. But then if you like romance, then you have that too. So it's like, it kind of works for a lot of different tastes.
Right.
So yeah. Again, The Everlasting by Alex Harrow. Just going to say that again. Another one kind of in a similar category is Upon a Starlit Tide by Kel Woods, which we also did for book club. And Kel actually came and talked to us about the book, which was a lot of fun. And that one is a combination of, it's like a reimagining of Cinderella and The Little Mermaid, set in France, I think right before the French Revolution, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, like so at the height of opulence.
Yeah. So, there's a ball and there's like, it's on the water. So it's like very nautical. And I guess it's not really a romance because it's about like the main character's growth, but there is a love story and they're in a very strong love story and it's very beautiful. And yeah.
And Demi, would you say that you and I together convinced Kel to maybe write a follow-up novella? Or am I engaging in wishful thinking here?
Yeah, because we were like, we want to see this part. And she's like, well, maybe someday. I think maybe she's just being nice.
Oh, I really held on to that. Well, maybe. I was like, sold. Deal.
You're still thinking about it. Yeah, that one's fun though, because that book made me cry 3 times because it was just so really wrenched at your heart, not just in like a love kind of way, but the characters were so good. And also, had a lot of similar themes of power and almost like ecology. I remember because that was another thing too, like thinking about nature and the power of nature and like man's destruction of it and things like that.
Then, of course, there's also Circe by Madeline Miller.
Yes.
Or as Flavia called it, one of our guest hosts, because she's Italian, it's Circe. The real, which I just think is so much prettier than Circe. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, when she said that, I was like, what did you just say?
Yeah,
this is how I can pronounce it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's an interesting book. Never heard of it. And so we both realized at the same time that she was talking about Circe.
Yeah, and this one was everywhere when it came out. I don't remember exactly when it released, but I remember seeing the cover like everywhere. And it's a retelling, or it's like the giving you the perspective of Circe, who's the witch from the Odyssey, and her life story, which is, this book is just like, it's one of my all-time favorite books, which I know everyone has different tastes. So I actually spoke to someone recently who didn't like it. I'm like, this is one of my all-time favorites. Mm-hmm. So I think it's amazing. But yeah, it has like that kind of witchiness, but she's also a god, kind of. I think she's a demigod, and it's, on an island. So it has a lot of good vibes, and like the writing is really good. And it's I remember it also made me cry. It's very, very human, even though she's not human. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like very much themes of familial trauma, generational trauma, but make it immortal gods. How does one escape the trauma of if your dad never dies and is also the god of the ocean, and also no one cared. There's just no love lost between these family members. And it's also it's part of this type of genre. I don't even think it has a name, but I like it. It's been popping up a lot, which is retelling a well-known story, but from someone else's perspective, especially religious works. I think is really fascinating, since this is technically a religion, right? It's like the Greek religion, which was more male like it was a story told from the perspective of the men. And so from the Odyssey's perspective, she was just this crazy witch that held Odysseus hostage for a bunch of years or whatever, and turned all his men into chickens. Was it? No, pigs.
It was pigs. Yeah.
Right. And then here we understand why. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I understand where, maybe it wasn't the right decision, but I understand where you're coming from, Chirche. I understand. So, yeah.
You sound so fancy when you say it.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel like I'm going to get in trouble. I shouldn't pronounce it that way, but it's just so much better. Like it just rolls off the tongue so much better.
I'm sure we'll ask Flavia if it's okay. She'll be like, of course.
We'll get some written confirmation signed. So thanks, Flavia, in advance.
I love that book. Well, so all of those are books by female authors, but you have one with complex themes by a male author who we talk about all the time on this podcast.
My one and only, the only man my husband has ever been jealous of, Brandon Sanderson.
So you want to talk about the Stormlight Archive?
Yeah, specifically, like this is a really dense book. So maybe it's for people who already are good readers and they're ready to dabble into epic fantasy. I highly recommend this. It's The Way of Kings, which is book 1 of the Stormlight Archive. That entire series has some of the most complex topics you'll ever see. We're talking about from like the godly realm of like what religion means and faith means to like injustice. Like that, like, so for example, in The Way of Kings, the main character is a man named Kaladin, who was a soldier who, for totally unjust reasons, got sold into slavery. And also, since he was a little kid, he's always battled with chronic depressive disorder. So imagine being someone who already has like this mental health crisis, just born with it. And now you've also been sold into slavery for doing the right thing. Imagine what that does to a person. And that's how the book starts. So
that reminds me of, is that the beginning of Gladiator? Have you seen that movie?
I remember watching that movie when I was way too young and I shouldn't have watched it.
Oh my God. I was way too young when I watched that movie too, but I still really like it, but I can't watch it now. It's like weird. I could handle it more when I was young, but I think that, it was a similar thing where he became a gladiator, which was a slave, and he was the emperor's friend or something. Anyway, that's a side note, but I love that movie.
Pulled some inspiration from that. He probably got some inspo from that. Yeah.
Well, that makes me like excited to read the book, because I mean, I was already excited to read it, but I love that kind of story of like, just exploring that, and so that sounds really good. Is that the one? Because I saw he has something that's being turned into a movie or a show. Is it
that's the Mistborn series, which I have on here.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds so good. So the last one that I had on here for complex themes and power, and of course this is not a comprehensive list, but we tried to narrow it down to the best ones. So The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. The main character is, I think it's set in Spain, kind of in the time of the Spanish Inquisition. So people are it's like, a very intense time period in history. And the main character is Jewish. And so she practices magic that she's learned from like her ancestors and this like ancestral magic. And so she essentially, I don't want to spoil the book, but she's trying to hide the fact that it's because she's Jewish, and which is not allowed in the Spanish Inquisition time. You have to be very Christian, Catholic. I don't know exactly. I don't know enough history there, but it didn't align with the dominant religion at the time. So there was that tension and thinking about also like legacy and like in ancestral, not even trauma, like in a way trauma, but also stuff that gets passed down, like the positive things that get passed down, and like this like survival instinct. And it's beautiful. It's very complex though, obviously, because it's really focused a lot on the religious aspect. Then there's magic, but then there's also the king at the time and all of that. So it's a really good like historical fiction book, but it's fantasy. So
I would love to read that. That sounds beautiful. I've actually been to Spain, to the Jewish quarter in the Andalus area, and I've been to the caves where the Jews would hide with the gypsies and the Muslims during like times of raids and things like that. They actually ended up kind of developing their own culture. That's like, and that's where flamenco came out of. Like the flamenco dance was because of the intermixing of all of these cultures hiding in the caves together. And like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you go up to those caves, it's like the most beautiful thing. And then you're like, how could, it's just, you forget. That happens to me, by the way, every time I go to Europe. I'm in somewhere that's incredibly beautiful, and then there's like a really dark history behind it all the time. Number one, like if I were to summarize every European country I've been to, it's like beautiful nature, horrible, sad stories happen on the land that I'm walking on. But so that sounds really great because I can almost because I've been there, I could almost imagine it. And so I already have the setting in my mind. So I really want to read this.
You should read it. It's really good. It's like, yeah, I like Leigh Bardugo. Okay, so those are some books with complex themes. But if you're like, okay, I'm just dipping my toe into fantasy and I don't want to read anything that's like so complicated. We kind of jumped into the deep end there. So we do have some books, some recommendations where if you're new to fantasy or, like the case where maybe you were reading romantasy or maybe you've only read thrillers and you're like, I want to read fantasy. So some books that are more in that space. So I have multiple on here by V.E. Schwab, who's my favorite author. And I love her books because a lot of them are, I've heard her talk a lot, but she's talked about how with fantasy, you have to think about how many steps someone is from reality. So with each element of magic you add, like it adds another step. And so some of her books are just one step away from like our world. And then something like The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson is maybe 100 steps away. It's literally a different world. And
yeah, different laws of physics and different planets and different flora and fauna. Don't start there if you're brand new.
Yeah. So if you're just dipping your toe into fantasy, probably the easiest one of hers is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I know was very popular when it came out. It's a really, really good book. It's definitely like a kind of a love letter, for me at least. It feels like a love letter to life and art, and it's beautiful. It's got like some, I guess it's not time travel, but like it's over the course of a few centuries. I don't remember exactly how many centuries it is. Yeah. And it just covers a lot of human history and thinking about that. And it's also set in France. We have multiple books set in France on this list. Also set in France for part of it, and New York, and kind of jumps around. I love that book. And then V. Schwab also has Vicious, which is another really good one if you are new to fantasy. So that one is basically about these two med students who, for their like thesis or dissertation, whatever it is, they decide that they're going to test a theory on how to develop superhuman abilities. So it's kind of superhero-y, but it's not. It definitely feels more like fantasy rather than, I don't know what you would classify superhero stuff as.
Sci-fi,
but
I think.
Yeah, it like is borderline sci-fi fantasy. So it's like good in that sense where it's like, wait, is this real? And it moves very fast. The series is called Villains, and she wanted to write a book where there was essentially no good guy, where everyone's a villain. But it's not like superhero villains. So it's very unique. I would definitely recommend it. And then if you just another V. Schwab rec, because I'm currently listening to these books and rereading them on audio. A Darker Shade of Magic series is really good. It's set partly in our London, and then there are 3 other Londons. And so we travel between them, and there's a lot of magic. And I think it's maybe the 1800s-ish or something, but that one's definitely more magic. But I love that. So I just had to share several V.E. Schwab recs because I think that she's really good if you're new to fantasy.
I would also add to this list a beloved book shared between me and Demi, also by Alex Haro, which is The 10,000 Doors of January. Demi, you want to talk about that book?
Yeah, I love that one. It's I believe set in Kentucky, and it's about a young woman or girl. I don't remember exactly how old she is.
Maybe like what
Yeah.
Christina Aguilera says, not just a girl, not yet a woman. So,
Yeah,
something along those lines.
exactly. That kind of the truly that age. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are, I've said this before in here. I thought that I read it in January. The main character's name is January. You do not have to read it in January, but I was like, oh, it's about January, and that's not the case. But it's fun. There's like is there a magical book?
No, I think that she sees doors.
Magic.
Yeah, like she has the capacity to see. She's like what I think is really cool is she's kind of an in-between person. So this is set in the olden days, I think like post Civil War or something, maybe a little bit after
that. Yeah, it's
that.
like early 1900s, I think.
Yeah. And she's an in-between person, and she can see in the space in between things. And if you go through that space, you enter another world. And so there's like just a cool sense of wonder about that, to be like how man, Alex Harrow is probably like, I've only read 2 books from her so far, but she might be one of my favorite authors. I have to read more of her works. But the way her brain works is so wild to me. Like, what a magical way to explain things. Like, it almost feels like magic is right underneath the surface. You just got to look for it. You just got to be silent and pay attention. And that's just it was such a cool concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that book. It's been a while since I read it, so the details are vague to me now, but I remember loving it and telling everyone else to read it, and that there were doors to all of these different worlds, and it's really good. Yeah, I definitely recommend that one. Speaking of doors, the other one I have for if you're new to fantasy is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. So this one feels kind of almost like a thriller, but it's like time travel-y. There is a door. I don't want to give too much away because there's like some twists and stuff in it, but it reads, there's a mystery. So it like has that feel where you're trying to solve it and you're trying to understand. And the main character is not like unreliable, not in like the main character is kind of unreliable. And so you're just like, what's exactly happening? And it's really good. So if you like thrillers and mysteries and stuff, I would definitely recommend The Unmaking of June Farrow as a place to kind of delve into some new fantasy, because it has magic, but then it also is still very grounded in our world as well. So yeah, so those are some if you're new to fantasy, but then we also want to just mention some kind of like classic fantasy. So if you want to just go even beyond, well, not even beyond, but maybe you don't want something with like necessarily super complex themes, or you just want it to feel like Lord of the Rings, but or even like other kinds of fantasy. So we have some books on this list for that as well. I'll just start actually with Green Teeth by Molly O'Neill. This one just feels like very classic fantasy to me because it's just a quest. There's magic. It's from the perspective of a lake monster. We actually interviewed the author on here. This was one of my favorite books last year.
Same.
And yeah, it's just like really fun and like fantasy, and just like the sense of wonder and just like going on an adventure. And yeah.
It almost feels like a real traditional fantasy, as in like pre-J.R. Tolkien fantasy, right, Demi?
Yeah. Like kind of like I was thinking about it after I read it, because it's like we think of Lord of the Rings as like the beginning of fantasy, but there was, Dracula, it was before then. Yeah, we have all of these other, night battles, Beowulf, like all of this stuff that was even before that. So I feel like Green Teeth is a modern story, but it has that feel. It's really good.
Like it would have fit, like Beowulf. I wouldn't have been surprised if it made an appearance in this world that she built. It's very of that vein. And it's very English, and it is a love letter to her home, not just like the UK, but the Cotswolds, where she's from and where she grew up. It's like a love letter to like that place, and it really shows. And as again, I've been to the Cotswolds, and it's really beautiful. So it's just an awesome book. Made me want to live in it.
I love Green Teeth. I want to read her new book, which we haven't read, so we won't dive into it now, but it looks really good. So definitely check
excited.
it out.
And the same thing, it's Roman Celtic, right? It's like a Roman Celt.
Yeah.
It's another love letter to place, which is awesome. Then funny enough, so the next book on this list is Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, which was actually my introduction to epic fantasy. And that's actually how I discovered Brandon Sanderson, was because I read Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I loved it so much. And I was like, I need more now. And that's how I discovered Brandon Sanderson. The main difference, there's a lot of differences between their books, but one of the biggest differences is that Patrick Rothfuss only wrote 2 books and he never wrote the third, whereas Brandon Sanderson literally writes books on accident when he doesn't mean to. Like literally.
He has so many. I joined his email list and I feel like there was like an announcement there that something was released, and then there's like another thing being released. I'm like, oh my God.
He can't help it. He like reminds me of the Hamilton, like, oh, why do you write like you're running out of time? Why do you write like you need it to survive? Why do you write every second you're alive? Every second you're alive. Every second you're alive. That is not Hamilton. That line is Brandon Sanderson. Like he can't help it. Like he can't help it. He's like, okay, guys, I really need to focus on this book. I have to because I'm on a schedule. And he's like, oops, but you know what? I was writing about this one character and then I decided to write a whole book about this one character. Sorry. Here you go.
Like insane. Crazy.
Yeah.
And the Name of the Wind is like the opposite. Yeah. Because it's supposed to be a trilogy, but there's only 2.
There's only 2. Yeah. And I still hold out hope. Patrick Rothfuss says that there's a manuscript out there. So one should hope. Let's see. I'm still part of the subreddit, the King Killer Chronicle subreddit. And there's always like a post being like, maybe this is the year. But this book by itself, even though I'm sad that the 3rd book has never come out, I am really happy with this first book. So if you're a completionist, maybe don't read this book just yet. Like if it's going to drive you into insanity, don't read this book just yet. But if you can enjoy the ride, this book is such a good introduction into epic fantasy. And something that Patrick Rothfuss, I think, like really does really well is he is a bard. And it's funny because the main character is a bard and Patrick Rothfuss is totally a bard. Like every single word has been like welded or like has been like
chiseled almost.
Chiseled is the word I'm looking for, to perfection. It's like the whole book is a poem almost. It's incredibly beautifully written. And so it's just and then there's so much mystery and drama, and I went through the first 2 books so fast. And then I remember at the time hearing like, oh, the book will come out in 2021, and it was 2020. And now here we are in 2026. And
Wait, you didn't start reading Brandon Sanderson until 2020?
Yeah. Brandon Sanderson 2020.
Oh my gosh. I thought you'd been reading it for like forever. No. Oh my God.
It's only in 2020 is when I probably had something to do with COVID where I needed like books to fill up my time. And yeah, that was then.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Because I've read all of these. I'm like, I read this like 15 years ago. And you're like, you've read all of these like recent. That's the epic fantasy, but
yeah,
that's so funny. Well, I will say for The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, the second book is also really good. I maybe like that one more. But I think it's just because I'm like reading it as an adult, and the first one is like at a school for a decent chunk of it. And I'm like less interested in school-based books right now. But the second one, honestly, in both of them, but there's like a really cool, like I love his representation of playing music because the main character is a musician. He plays the lute. And then there's also an interesting, I don't want to spoil it, but an interesting way about how one of the cultures communicates emotions. And so it's really good. I would definitely recommend that one too.
Yeah, lots of interesting like magical creatures, magical flora and fauna. I remember there's this tree that is like so evil, but it's also omniscient. It's like a 4th dimensional creature that knows everything that's ever happened and everything that will happen. And it's like a creature of pure evil. It's like a tree of pure evil. And so you shouldn't even speak to that tree, because if that tree says one word to you, because it knows everything, that one word can be enough to destroy all of humanity, like, and all the whole planet. So, and I remember that being a really, like, just to give you an example of the type of mind that Patrick Rothfuss has is like that kind of magic. So it's a really good book.
Yeah, it is really good.
Yeah.
And then you have, of course, another Brandon Sanderson.
Yep. This was the first book I read after The Name of the Wind, when I was like, oh my God, I really like epic fantasy. Why haven't I read this my whole life? And so Mistborn was the very first book I read. The very first Mistborn now is like, I think 7 books right now, plus a couple of novellas for the reason I mentioned, which is he writes stuff on accident. But the Mistborn series, the first era is 3 books. So just, you could start off with the first book. My husband read the first book and he really liked it. And then he just never read the rest. We negotiated when he was making his reading plan for this year. We negotiated for Mistborn Book 2 to be on his list. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes.
Mistborn Book 1 is on our book club list for December too.
Yay!
Because I've never read it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited for you, Debbie. I won't give away too much, but this book is a really good introduction to classical fantasy. I'll just give you the plot. There's this person who is like a sliver of infinity, and he is has basically done he's immortal, and he has held a death grip on the planet for 1,000 years. And let's just say he's very into feudalism as a form of government, and maybe slavery too, like like not necessarily indentured servants like you'd have in feudalism, but like slavery, like what you'd have in like pre-Civil War America kind of thing. And he and there's a little girl, and she's a street urchin, and I'll leave it there. And it's a really good book.
Yeah, the way I've heard Brandon Sanderson talk about it is his thought was like, well, what if in Lord of the Rings they fail and Sauron rules, and he rules for 1,000 years? Not that it's set in the same world, but like that was kind of like the impetus. And so like, what if the bad guy does rule for 1,000 years, and then that's the story? So, which made me really want to read it, because I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, is like, what if the bad guy wins?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think the book is very hopeful. And Brandon Sanderson, like, one of his themes is hope. Even like, imagine like something, this book, I just read it at the perfect time, because it's like, imagine if you're 500 years into this man's reign and you have no idea that there's another 500 years coming. It feels like the reign of terror is forever and ever, but it always ends. Like, the evil always ends eventually. And that's such a triumphant, hopeful thing to know, is that it ends eventually. And so it fills me up. Love him so much. Love this book. I hope if you read it, you will also read all the other books, and then you'll read all of his Stormlight books, and then you'll read all of his, and then you just
read this for 10 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
I guess depending on how fast of a reader you are, because
that's true.
They're pretty long. Well, at least the Stormlight archive books.
Yeah, Mistborn is more reasonable. It's physically impossible. I will be shocked if anyone can faithfully convert the Stormlight archive into a different medium. Mistborn, I think it's possible. Like, I don't know how they'll do it.
Is it a TV show or a movie?
I don't know. I hope it's a TV show. I hope it's not a movie, because, movies always like cut out a lot. Yeah, but, and I kind of hope it's an animated show, like kind of like Avatar, The Last Airbender style, because there's so much like that. I don't know if you can translate it to live action, but I will leave it in the hands of Brandon Sanderson. He's in charge. We're in good hands.
Yeah, I have to read it before the visual version of it comes out, whatever we want to call it, the alternate media. And then we have a few others that we didn't have a category for. And so we'll just give you a very quick lightning round of overview, so you can go dive into those if you want to. So A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I would say the whole series of that. Obviously, it's about witches. It has vampires, has demons. It's also goes back to the Elizabethan times in the second book. So, and it's set in our world in the first book. So it's perfect for fall if you need a fall recommendation. And then another fall recommendation I have is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova, which is kind of a continuation of Dracula, the Dracula novel. And it's so good. It is long. I think I don't know how long it is, but it takes me a while to read it. So just keep that in mind. And but it's really fun. It goes through Europe and I think is set in the fall and has vampires and stuff. So honorable mentions, if you will. And then do you want to share the last two?
Yeah, I would also share The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, which is a fun, short read. I shouldn't say fun. It's actually it's a short, engaging read, as what I meant to say instead of fun. But it's actually themes of depression, extreme depression, but also, again, hope. And it's short. And so it's also maybe good if you're new to fantasy too. And then there's A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan, which I don't want to share too much about because we're going to be doing an episode on that pretty soon.
Yeah, we're reading it, I believe, for April.
Yeah, next month.
We'll be reading the book. So if you're listening to this before then, definitely read along with us and we'll do an episode on that. And yeah, I think we have a good list here of fantasy books for adults. So any final words?
Jeez. Every time I do this with you, Demi, I'm like, okay, I have to add this to my list. I have to add this to my list. It's just so many books and not enough time.
Oh my gosh, I know. Yeah, I can't believe you just started reading Brandon Sanderson in 2020. That's my takeaway. I'm like, how you must read so fast that you've read all of these and other books. It's crazy. So
life without children.
So I think we're all going to just aspire to have your level of reading so we can get through this list.
We'll see. Maybe now that I'm pregnant, maybe I'll slow down quite a bit.
Or you'll speed up because
that's true.
You need the distraction.
That's so true. That's so true.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your recommendations with me. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Definitely let us know if you have any books that you would recommend for someone who wants to read adult fantasy, because I feel like there's a lot of young adult, but not as much adult fantasy out there. So definitely let us know. And yeah, we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
That's all for today. If you enjoyed the episode, follow More Magic on your favorite podcast platform to be notified of future episodes. And if you have the time, please rate and review to help us spread more magic to other fantasy readers. As always, if there's a book you want us to discuss, you can let us know at moremagicpodcast.com. In the meantime, we hope your current read becomes your next favorite, and we're sending you more magic.